The Day of the Crows. For those of you who don't know, I have some history with this particular movie. This is a film that has evaded my grasp for years now. I actually briefly talked about my experience with this film, but to save you and me the trouble, I'll sum it up real quick. Sometime during high school, I came across a trailer for the French animated film, The Day of the Crows. Immediately it piqued my interest as it looked like my type of movie, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Not on streaming sites, not on US home media, not anywhere. I patiently waited for some sort of release, but to no avail. I know I could have used other means to watch this movie, but honestly I didn't really want to resort to that just yet. It would end up being like 5 years or so until I got the opportunity to watch it. What can I say? I can be quite patient. It would become available to watch on Prime Video through their French channel package, so I was finally able to watch this film after waiting for so long. Just a little background on this film. It was directed by Jean-Christophe Descent and based on the book of the same name by Jean-François Beauchemin. Sorry for my pronunciation. I know I said earlier that this is a French film, but it was actually a joint production between France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Canada. How much each country contributed to the film, I don't know, but saying French film is much easier than saying French, Belgian, Luxembourg, Canadian film. It was released in the fall of 2012 in those same countries and grossed just under 500,000 USD. It follows a father and son who live in the forest, secluded from society. It isn't until after an incident that forces them to seek aid from a nearby village, where they meet Manon and her father. I was actually trying to keep my expectations low prior to watching this, in fear that I had subconsciously hyped this movie up. I didn't want my long wait to have created all this unnecessary build-up just for it to end up being a mediocre film. But after watching this movie, how was it actually? Our story starts off with a man holding a baby running through a storm, seemingly spooked by something. He shoves the baby into a burrow of gophers where the baby spends the rest of the night and feeds off gopher milk. Can I show this? The man comes back the next morning to retrieve the baby and takes it with him, kicking off our film. The next scene skips about a decade or so later, properly introducing us to two of our main characters as they chase down a wild boar. This Tommy Pickles looking kid, solely referred to as Son, and his father, a massive bearded man. Right away, we are treated to beautiful scenery of what I can only assume is a forest in rural France, and we witness the life that the father and his son have made for themselves. They live off the land, hunting their own food, and using the resources that nature provides. The son is significantly smaller than his father, but makes up for it with his creativity. Throughout the film, we see that the son is quite crafty and resourceful as he creates tools to help him and his father hunt. In this scene in particular, he is able to transport a boar by getting it on a carrier made out of thick branches. Although in these early scenes, we get a sense that the father is a bit controlling of his son. The son will usually seek his father's consent before doing most things. The morning after their feast, the son goes by a nearby river to collect any fish that may have been caught in his traps. There we meet one of our first mysterious characters, a man with a cat head. The Catman does not speak or have a name, but is friends with the son and communicates with him through body language. After collecting one measly shrimp from his traps, the son decides to go after a stork to make up for him. He chases a stork to the edge of the forest, but is afraid to go any further for some reason. With the help of Catman, the son is able to catch the stork, but notices people beyond the forest. Curious about this phenomenon, the son asks his father about it, who becomes annoyed by the question. The father then proceeds to make the son roll a barrel up a hill, gaslight him about there being nothing beyond the forest, and tell him that he should be grateful to be living in it, as his mother loved the forest. We then see that the purpose of the barrel was so that the father could kick him off a cliff. Somehow surviving the fall, the son emerges from the pond he landed in and is greeted by a woman with the head of a doe. It is then revealed that this dear lady is his mother. Although when the father talked about the son's mother, he would talk about her in the past tense, as if she had died. Since he didn't get a clear answer from his father, the son decides to ask his mother about what is beyond the forest. Not that she could really, as she cannot speak, but she also seemed visibly uncomfortable by the question. So the son decides to drop the subject and spend some quality time with his mom before returning to his father. Later that night, the father is mysteriously woken up. He steps outside the hut and follows the wind into the forest. The next morning, the son wakes up and notices that his father is gone. He rushes outside into the rain to find that his father is in a hurry for something. The father beckons for his son to go along with him. The two dash off towards a makeshift tower, and the father has the son try to tie him down to the tower as he yells towards the sky, cursing the demons and the world beyond. The tower eventually tumbles over, causing the father to fall off. The son rushes to his aid and finds that his father is unconscious and has a broken leg. The son gets his father on the improvised carrier from earlier and seeks someone to help him. The son eventually runs into Catman and his friends and asks if any of them knows how to help his father. It is here where I believe the film makes it clear that these people with animal heads are ghosts, as the son says that he thinks his father was yelling at them, aka the world beyond. Ooh, spooky. The man with the horse head then carries his father to the edge of the forest and gestures to go beyond, as the son will find help there. I think it's ironic that the one who's helping the son figure out how to fix his father's leg is the horseman, because, you know, when the horse breaks its leg, they usually kill it. The son is reluctant to go beyond the forest as he believes he will disappear, but quickly figures out that's not the case. He proceeds to carry his father out into the world looking for anyone who can help. After trekking for what seems to be days, the son finally comes across a small town. As he enters the town, everyone is gathered in the town square for a military parade. Out of curiosity, the son checks it out, but is shooed away by the others due to his horrible smell. Honestly, I didn't really think about how bad the son would smell, but, you know, it makes sense. He probably went years taking very few baths. As the son returns to where he left his father, he sees that a couple of people are examining him. They seem to recognize him, but as the son approaches them, the couple are scared off by his appearance. That's kind of mean, isn't it? After looking around, the son finds an infirmary or a hospital where they are taking injured soldiers. They take his father in, but the son refuses to let the nurses do any procedures on him. It isn't until the doctor arrives that convinces the son to ease up, and he is assured that his father will be taken care of. The doctor allows the son to spend the night with his father, but while everyone's asleep, a couple of townsfolk go by the infirmary to confirm that the father is in fact someone they do know. The next morning, the doctor returns but also brings along his daughter, Manon. He tasks her with taking care of the son so that he's allowed to operate on his father's leg. Manon takes the son back to her house where she bathes and dresses him properly. Once the son is all cleaned up, Manon gets a little glimpse of what the relationship is like between the son and his father, learning that the son doesn't have a proper name. I think this would have been a perfect opportunity to give the son a name, because I think giving him a name would have, made this talking about the film a lot easier. Back at the infirmary, the doctor is confronted by angry townsfolk. The one leading this group is an older woman named Mrs. Bramble. She is very adamant that the father is nothing but trouble. We then start getting some backstory on the father. We learn that the father's name is Pumpkin and that he once lived in this town. He also seemed to have been in a romantic relationship with Mrs. Bramble's niece, although Mrs. Bramble's brother was killed in a fire and blames Pumpkin for it. Despite all this protest, the doctor insists that Pumpkin isn't a criminal and should be treated, for his son will be orphaned if he is not. The next day during breakfast, the doctor informs the son that the surgery was a success and that he will be able to see his father soon. Before he leaves for work, the doctor gives Manon a kiss goodbye and tries to do the same to the son. Kinda weird, don't you think? Not being familiar with this act of affection, it leaves the son confused. Later, Mrs. Bramble comes by the house and tries to scare Manon by telling that Pumpkin is an ogre who will eventually kidnap her and eat her. The son steps in between them to stop further harassment, causing Mrs. Bramble to leave, but not before telling the son that his father has no love for him. Seeing that this statement obviously upset him, Manon reassures the son that all fathers love their children. That's a nice sentiment and all, but some fathers have a weird way of showing it. While Manon and the son are out in the town growing closer, they catch Mrs. Bramble pleading to the local soldiers for aid against Pumpkin. The son accidentally knocks over a metal pillar while tussling with the soldier's dog, alerting the soldiers. Not seeing that it was the son who did this, they assume it was Pumpkin and confront the doctor about it. Although the doctor sorts it out, convincing the sergeant that Pumpkin couldn't have been responsible as he has been asleep this whole time. Later that night, Manon asks the son what happened to his mother, but he informs her that he doesn't know, as his father doesn't like to talk about her. The son then states that he wishes he could talk to his mother, as he does to Manon, confusing her. Manon then realizes that the son is able to see ghosts, and finds it fascinating. The two bond over the hope that Manon can one day meet the ghosts. The next morning, Pumpkin has been moved to the doctor and Manon's house, as he caused a commotion at the infirmary the night before. After finally meeting Pumpkin, Manon is convinced that he is a monster after all, and tries to convince the son to run away from him. Although the son refuses, determined to find his father's love that Manon spoke about. She then tells him that she was wrong, and if his father did love him, he wouldn't treat him the way he did. This upsets the son, who goes back to his father and attempts to give him a kiss on the cheek, only angering him. Manon later apologizes for what she said, and lets the son know that she's worried that they'll never see each other again. The son promises her that they will see each other again once he finds his father's love. Pumpkin and the son both leave the town later that night, with Pumpkin warning his son that he should never come back again. Back in the forest, the son begins to search for his father's love, although he believes it's something tangible and is literally looking for it. The son eventually finds a crow stuck in a tree and befriends it. When he brings it back home to help him look for his father's love, his father discovers the crow and is mortally frightened by it and tries to kill it. This prompts the son to set the crow free, but now his father believes that he is in leagues with demons and devils. The son waits outside the hut until night when his father comes out and follows him into the forest. His father leads him to what the son believes is his love. Upon further investigation, or rather desecrating, the son discovers that it is actually his mother's grave. The ghost of his mother appears and gives the son visions of the past, further explaining the backstory of Pumpkin. We see that Pumpkin and the son's mother were beginning to settle down and start their lives in the forest, but unfortunately the mother died during childbirth. Giving more context to the first scene of the film, Pumpkin also went through some sort of transformation due to her death, giving him the look he has now. In disbelief, the son asks why she wasn't taken into town to be treated, and his mother shows him another vision of how they left town due to her father not approving of her and Pumpkin's relationship. This vision clarifies two things. One being that her father's death was his own fault after all, and two being that the day they left town, the sky was filled with smoke and crows. Pumpkin thought that this was a bad omen of some sort, especially after the death of his loved one. Pumpkin finds his son in the grave of his mother and is initially angry, but when the son reveals that he can see the ghost of his mother, he demands that he show her to him. The two spend some time trying to search for her, but when she finally reveals herself, Pumpkin is unable to see her. Determined to see her again, Pumpkin refuses to give up. Due to the conditions they're searching in, Pumpkin becomes ill, and they're forced to stop. Seeing that the father isn't getting any better, the son calls out for his crow friend, and asks it to bring Manon and her father to help. The crow goes into town, along with a bunch of other crows, and finds Manon. Manon follows the crow into the forest and reunites with the son. Manon witnesses the condition that Pumpkin is in and urges that they take him into town. But before doing so, Pumpkin wakes up and goes on a rampage due to Manon being there. He starts a fire in the hut, and as he is about to strike Manon with a hammer, the son repeats something that his mother once said, causing Pumpkin to stop. Realizing what he has become, Pumpkin decides to hold up the burning hut for his son and Manon to escape as his last act of love. The son and Manon make it out and watch the hut burn. Out from the ashes emerges the ghost of Pumpkin, and he's finally reunited with his love. The other ghosts start to appear during the reunion, fulfilling Manon's hope in meeting the ghost, although she doesn't seem too excited about it. After having one last moment as a family, the son's parents incline that he should go with Manon. I mean, he doesn't really have a choice, does he? The son promises that he will return one day, and the movie ends with the son and Manon running back to the town. Now, what did I think of the movie? Honestly, I really enjoyed it. I wasn't disappointed at all. That's not to say I didn't have my problems with it though. So let's go ahead and get those out of the way. Most of my problems have to do with Pumpkin. He was portrayed as someone who was really paranoid, and we weren't really told why he was paranoid. The only thing that was sort of explained was his fear of crows, and maybe that feeds into his fear of demons and devils, but I'm personally not 100% convinced. The distrust between him and the townsfolk wasn't really explored either, although Mrs. Bramble probably spread the rumor that he killed her brother, so that might have caused the distrust between him and the townsfolk. Although if anyone, Pumpkin should have had something against Mrs. Bramble. Pumpkin's transformation was also very sudden, and it wasn't really explained why. I think it would have been more believable if he just started to look like an ogre over time. I know this is a fantasy and not everything has to be explained, but Pumpkin's transformation was just too sudden in my opinion. Where the fantasy is done right are the ghosts. We learn just enough to intrigue us, but not enough to ruin it. It keeps that aspect mysterious. One thing I absolutely admire about this film is how it's being sold as a film about a boy learning how to love, but not really in the way you expect. Typically, the son would have learned how to love, and the film would have been about him and Manon, but that wasn't the case. Manon taught the son what love was by forming a connection with him. And that caused the son to want to have that same connection with his father, especially after seeing the relationship between Manon and her father. So this is more of a love story between a son and his father, rather than a boy and a girl. It's a fresh take on this type of story and gives the film much more depth. Obviously the animation and art style are great, but I wanted to shed some light on the music too. I didn't always notice it, but when the emotions are high, it definitely comes through, and it makes those moments much more magical. But yeah, The Day of the Crows. I can finally say that I've seen this film. I hope one day it is officially released in the US, whether it be a theatrical run or a home media release, because I would definitely see it again in theaters or add it to my Blu-ray collection. If you have the chance, you should definitely check it out, especially around this time of year. I think any fan of animation will enjoy this movie. Okay, bye.